Hey Manuel family, my name is Jeudy. I'm the Compton Initiative Director, and I'm here to share with you Chapter 7, Serving for the Purpose of Godliness. One quote that really stuck out with me on page 158 reads, "The gospel of Jesus Christ transforms sinners against God into servants of God." I think that quote just gives me so much hope for each and every person to serve in God's kingdom and specifically in God's church. I think when we think about a service and the discipline of serving God, we get kind of maybe scared because we see it maybe as such a high of a mountain as, man, that pastor that is speaking, that is service. That is true service. I can never do that. Or maybe sometimes we just tend to overlook the idea of service by thinking and maybe fooling ourselves, saying, I serve every single day. I open the door for elderly people, or I pick up trash when I see it, and that's service, and there's some truth to that. But the idea and the hope behind chapter 7, how the author describes it, is that there's so much more to serving than either of those spectrums. The author reminds us that the disciplined serving is for the purpose of godliness is not just to serve occasionally or when it's convenient or self-serving. I think that's impactful to know that service isn't just to do it when it's convenient or self-serving to us. But this is an amazing illustration how the author explains it is, but serving should come out like a spring simply from our love for God and love for others. Like a spring simply for God, simply for loving God and a love for others. I think that's just an amazing illustration of how serving really should be a little natural, and it comes from really the heart of it. And the gospel and the author speak so much to service and other disciplines, how it really affects the issue of the heart. A really great quote that I liked from chapter 7 was from A.W. Tozer, how it says, "Fellowship with God leads straight to obedience and good works. That is the divine order, and it can never be reversed. Fellowship with God, understanding first His Word, and loving God and having good, authentic relationship with Him, then leads to service." And then you may ask, how long do I really fellowship with God? Haven't I been fellowship with God already? And another quote by A.W. Tozer kind of explains it like this: "No one can long worship God in spirit and in truth before the obligation of holy service becomes too strong to resist." So if we are truly worshiping God, the goodness of our hearts kind of just overflows into physical action serving others. My testimony of spiritual discipline in my life, I believe the spiritual discipline of serving really called me back to church, of just how God used me. When I was in college, I remember I was involved with the church, one of the most kind of spiritual brokenness point of my life. I decided to go back to church, and the church at the time that I was involved with rented a banquet hall, rented a banquet room at a hotel, and what was interesting is we'd have to wake up every single morning around 6 o'clock to go to the pastor's house to load up a truck with all of the audio and video, the speakers, the soundboard, and then we'd have to transport it to the hotel and set up the speakers, run the wires, make sure the projector is working, and then after every Sunday we would just kind of put everything back and do the same thing next Sunday. And what was interesting is this really created amazing discipline in my life. The fact that I was hungry for God's Word at a serious point in my life, and waking up 6 o'clock in the morning, even though it's rough, it still is rough to wake up 6 o'clock in the morning, but back then it was even rougher because I was a college student. And we just did it kind of effortlessly. We did it tirelessly, and what I didn't know was the quality bonding time that I had with the guys setting up the sound equipment. These guys, they were mentoring me, they were speaking wisdom into my life, and I think that's just one example of how God uses service to build discipline in our lives, and it really just starts with the heart of surrender. I think at this crucial point in my life when I was surrendering again to God, He really made things, He really remade my heart for Him, rebuilt my heart for Him. And I think if This spiritual discipline is what really not only brought me back to church, but has kept me in church since that day. So my prayer for you and for the rest of our ERC family is that you may grow closer to God and that you may grow closer, grow stronger in the discipline of service. God bless.